Rest assured, here at United, a computer is not making a determination whether you move forward or not in our selection process. It is an actual recruiter and member of my leadership team who is reviewing that application. And if your application gets called or if it gets rejected, it was because a person in my team actually looked at it.
Most pilots don't understand what career opportunities are available in the world of aviation. They're making career decisions based on advice from friends or posts on internet forums, meaning they are taking huge risks with their livelihood without having all the details. This podcast was created to help you understand the aviation industry so you can find your dream job. Let's get ready for Pushback. Here's your host and my dad, Nick Fialka.
Hey, pilot, welcome to Ready for Pushback. It's Nick Fialka, and you are in for a treat today. I am speaking with Justin Ritter, the Senior Manager of Pilot Hiring Programs at United Airlines. United Airlines, can you believe that? Justin sat down with me for over an hour to talk about what it's like and what he's looking for at United for pilots. It's amazing. It was such a great conversation. He's such a generous guy. And we go into it. We talk about every aspect of the interview process, what he's looking for in a pilot, what it takes to stand out, failures, interview tips, technical parts of it, all the things. I mean, he was so open about everything. And the reason is because he knows that it used to be all about protecting the secret about all the things we do in our interview, and it's got to be a big secret. But really what it needs to be is an opportunity to show off how great the organization is and how you can fit in the culture. And really what they want to know is how you can fit in the culture. How do you fit with them? How do they fit with you? Where do the puzzle pieces go together? And I love that. And I think I appreciate everything about what Justin had to say. And I think you will also appreciate that. And you're going to get so much out of it. Since it's an hour, and I know, like, I try to do these episodes to be about 30-ish, 40-ish minutes, I'm going to divide it up into 2 episodes. And here's why. Because like 30-ish minutes, like when I listen to a podcast, I'm on my treadmill. I'm on the treadmill. I got my headphones in. I'm listening to a show, and I can only run for about a half hour. I can't run for an entire hour. So I don't want you to lose steam. I don't want you to lose focus. I want you to be locked in and fresh for every word that he's got to say, because everything is so important. So this is episode 1. Next week will be episode 2. And I am just so excited for you to hear what Justin's got to say.
Hey everyone, Bill Sims here with Spitfire Elite. If you've ever dreamt of joining the United team, this is your golden opportunity. Learn directly from the experts and gain insider knowledge about the path to success. Join us for Charting Your Course at United Airlines, live on Thursday, June 29th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, for an evening of insightful conversation and invaluable information. During this event, presented by Spitfire Elite, you'll have the chance to meet Justin Ritter, Senior Manager of Pilot Hiring at United Airlines. He's here to share the company's latest hiring news and answer all of your burning questions. So whether you're a student pilot looking to make a career change or a professional pilot who's considering United Airlines, you got to mark this event on your calendar. Thursday, June 29th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The registration link can be found in the show notes. Sign up now and invite a friend or 2. You're not going to want to miss this.
So do it. Remember, June 29th, it's Thursday at 8 p.m. Me and Justin Ritter for an hour and a half. Ask him anything. Let's go. And last but not least, let's have a quick word from our sponsors, because without them, we wouldn't have this awesome podcast. Hey, pilot, it's Nick. I want to tell you about a great friend of the show, Timothy P. Pope. He's a financial planner, and he's completely focused on the professional pilot. He's the kind of guy you want to go to for real talk to help you figure out your financial future. With so many upgrades and so many transitions and so many things going on, you owe it to yourself to give him a call. He'll help you design and execute really smart financial planning strategies, whether it's retirement planning, investment management, military transition, tax planning. He's a great financial planning partner. Timothy P. Pope, CFP. helping professional pilots make the most out of life. Give them a shout. All the information's in the show notes. You should definitely tell them I told you to call. All right, pilot. Well, we got Justin Ritter here. Welcome, Justin. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you today?
Dude, I am awesome. Justin is the senior manager of pilot hiring programs at United. And I, first off, think that that's the longest title of anybody I've had on the show. So well done, sir.
Thank you. Yes. Words are free here, so we'll just keep adding words to my tongue.
I don't know if you ever cruise LinkedIn, but the more things people have after their name, like comma, and then all sorts of letters, it tells me that they're way more important.
Yes, that's what I'm going for too. I'm very important because I have a very long title. So
that's awesome, dude. Well, I want to dive into a lot about the United process and what you guys do, but will you kind of give a snapshot of what your job is and what you are responsible for?
Absolutely. So here at United, I'm responsible, as with my team, for hiring all of our pilots here at United Airlines. So every pilot that comes through the door through our traditional processes, not through our aviate processes, has to see either myself or a member of my team for an interview and to be selected and go through the process to become a pilot here. We complete 70 to 120 interviews every single week, and we ensure that we continuously hire good quality pilots for United Airlines.
Yeah, so 70 to 120 a week, and you do them all there in Denver, right?
We do, yes. Mm-hmm.
That seems like a huge ask. How many interviewers, people on the interview teams do you have?
Yeah, so our interview team is comprised of one HR representative and one of our special assignment pilots who's been selected by my team as well as our board of review to conduct the interviews from the flight ops perspective. We typically have between 9 to 10 interview teams of the HR and the pilot every single day, conducting 3 to 4 interviews per day.
9 to 10. So let's say I'm bad at math. So we'll say you've got 20 people per day doing 2 to 3. So you're just like cranking through and they are the HR, you've got a pilot there for pilot speak, but you have an HR person there for HR speak. Kind of tell me about why you have both of them instead of just like 2 pilots or 2 HR people.
Absolutely. It's because our interview process is really twofold. The first part of our interview process, really the first 45 minutes or so, is behavioral-based interviews. So that is our standard tell me about a time when questions, the information that can help us form an evaluation on the pilot based upon their previous work history and experience. And then the second half of the interview is our technical portion, in which the pilot simulates an event for the candidate to be able to speak to as well. So the pilot does an incredibly wonderful job in both sections, but their main focus obviously is the technical portion. As with the HR individual, obviously their focus is the behavioral-based interview, and they're also able to sit in and view and make a recommendation on the technical as well. But they both have their own separate functions, and they're both there to keep each other honest.
Yeah, it would make sense to me that after doing 3 a day, 5 days a week, the HR person would definitely pick up all the little technical parts of aviation and be like, man, I could totally be a pilot. Why am I?
Most of my recruits could probably fly a plane now based upon what they've learned. Yes.
It's probably a better job to be in the HR world, to tell you the truth. It's as volatile.
Depends on the day. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Depends on how COVID is.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm a candidate, right? So I'm a pilot. I'm interested in United, and I'm really focused on trying to get to your company. Talk to me about what the process is on basically how to apply, but then let's talk about standing out too, about what that looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So the main way that everyone can apply is through pilothiring.united.com. That is our open pilot hiring website where you can submit your application and your information at any given time. And once you have submitted your application, you are then reviewed by a member of my team to look at your qualifications. Now, there's a couple ways to stand out. I think the first being is obviously a dedication to United, flying in the United ecosystem, whether it's be for one of our express carriers, whether it be previously a United employee, that is also very important to us, or having some legacy with United. Another way to stand out is to coming to one of our conferences and meeting with one of our pilots or recruiters as well. So we have obviously a large contingent that goes to NGPA conference, the Papa Expo, OBAP this year as well. It's a great way for them to meet with a member of the team and have their application and resume stand out as well. And then finally, just really good flying experience. That does not necessarily translate to having, a ton of hours. Like, we're not looking for 20,000 hour pilots here. We're looking for individuals who have good, varied flying experience that can make them stand out among some of their competing candidates.
So United, not you specifically, but United was one of the first to switch to an internal application. And it used to be on pilot credentials, and everybody had their application. And I can't remember if it was before RTAG or before OBAP, but like the day before, United decided, hey, we're doing a new app and it's only on this portal. And everybody had to like scramble that was going to do a meet and greet to get their app submitted. Were you there during that time and helping smooth all the feathers out after that?
Great question. So yeah, it was on airline apps before that process. And then we switch over to, it's now an internal Salesforce really application process that we have today. I was not in that team during that time period. I did not make those decisions, but it has been a true labor of love and learning experience for all of us. What we wanted to do is we wanted to provide a better and more seamless application process. And admittedly, the first couple of weeks were a challenge, I think, for everyone, for my team, for the applicants themselves. Though I do believe today we have worked out many of those bugs. The one plug I will always say is that if you have an application submitted right now and you make any updates to your application, whether it be adding hours or additional aircraft or whatever it may be, you have to go back in and resubmit every single time. If one change is made, we are unable to see it until you have resubmitted. So certainly something that we're working through right now. We would like to share with any one of your listeners who has an application submitted right now.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, so I'm big on the application review, and we do the interview, helping and preparing people to come to United. My app team, when I was talking to them, they're like, hey, look, I'm really glad right now we can go to PDF and things can get printed out, because that was a big, believe it or not, as probably small as a part that maybe people think that is internally, that's a big part for the aviator to be able to see what they're putting forward and go back, taking a break, going back for a second look and coming into it to make sure that their stuff is accurate and complete and makes sense. I don't know if you remember putting your application in. When I did mine, golly, I'm always the one like, it's the hardest part. It takes so long. There's so many things you need. And so I think that, and now people are going internally, and that is making interesting switches. Do you foresee any other like large changes with the application coming forward?
With the application itself, I do not see anything on the candidate-facing side that will be any large changes for them. Like I said, there are still some kinks and some bugs to work out in regards to flight time conversion, adding up all of the hours that they may have. Some of the biggest changes that are coming down the pipeline are going to be on my team's side and making our team's ability to review their information, their credentials, a lot easier, as well as input information and move them along the pipeline at a quicker speed. So if there's anything that they may see, it could be we're hoping to get these people through quicker than we have before.
Okay. Take me behind the scenes, right? So I put my app in. I've got it sitting in there, and I'm in a queue of probably 45 million on file.
Give or take, yeah, a couple million.
Yeah. What is it that's happening in the background that I can't see?
So on the background, what we do is that we run reports every single week of who's currently in our pool and who's new to our pool. And what we do is we review those resumes based upon the current pool overall that we have. So the overarching applicant pool. And each pilot's information, whether it be their flight time, where they're currently flying, any accidents, incidents, checkride failures that they have compared to the rest of the overall pool is then evaluated. And those candidates that are competitive, that are above that threshold or that line, that are more competitive than the rest of their candidate peers, are then brought forward to then complete our next phase, which is the Hogan Leadership Inventory Assessment that we have them complete next.
Yeah. So is there a point system given? Is it like when my app is in like, hey, I like this, or this was 25 points, this other one's 35 points?
There is no true point system. No, we look at solely based on experience, and we all do it internally, and it's all done manually as well.
Man, that how many people you got on a daily basis looking at that thing?
Many people on a daily basis looking at many applications every single day. But I think honestly, from my perspective, I prefer that because I want to make sure that everyone who submits to United is given that due diligence. I do feel that there are some programs and other processes and other recruitment functions, not necessarily in the pilot hiring world, in which it's a computer that's going through your resume and only submitting the strong ones to the hiring manager. Here at United in pilot hiring, we want to make sure that the nuance is captured in a pilot's application. I mean, to your point, there's so much that you have to input in, whether it be which aircraft you flew, where you instructed, who you're currently flying with, hours. All that information is so incredibly nuanced, and I don't think a computer system can truly conceptualize what your qualifications are, much like a highly trained individual that my team is.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that seems to be one of the biggest fears, I think, when I was going through the process, probably similar to when you were going through the process, it was just you put it in this portal and you hope for the best. There wasn't like the hiring conferences weren't huge.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of, there was this threat out there. And so I think that now getting eyes on it and making things clearer, I think that is something that gives people a lot of peace of mind, but also something, the fact that like, oh man, somebody's really looking at this. I need to try even harder.
Exactly. Yeah. And rest assured, here at United, a computer is not making a determination whether you move forward or not in our selection process. It is an actual recruiter and member of my leadership team who is reviewing that application. And if your application gets called or if it gets rejected, it was because a person in my team actually looked at it and decoded all of the pilot speak on that application that I don't believe a computer could have been able to do.
Yeah, that makes good sense. So we talked about where your application goes and when it's in the mix and things like that, but I want to dive deep. A lot of people, when I put this out to my group of listeners, hey, I'm talking to United. First off, everybody's like, gasp, it's going to be awesome. Mm-hmm. The first and the biggest question I got was all about failures. And will you hire me if I have a failure? How many failures are too many? This, that, or the other. And it all kind of comes down to this feeling of inadequacy, right? I'm not a perfect person. I have failed. And how could you possibly piece me back together to be part of this massive organization that is a legacy airline? And will you talk to that just a little bit?
Absolutely. So I think failures are very important. And I think we can all agree here that most pilots, if you have some sort of experience, will have a checkride failure or two or more in their experience. And that's a part of this career, right? The way that we look at it here in United is really twofold. Number one, it has to be disclosed. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we're seeing now is people are afraid. They are feeling that sense of inadequacy. And so they don't know whether or not that it should be accurate to disclose it or not. And I'm going to be the first one to tell you, no matter what is in your history, no matter what is in your experience, you must disclose it. There are consequences for going through our entire process and then finding out that later you had this issue we didn't know on the front end as well. So disclosure is very important for us. And then secondly, I view failures more or less as kind of like a credit score, right? When you have a credit score, it's all about recency and number and amount of debt that you have, right? And obviously a lot more, obviously, but same with like failures as well, right? If you had, let's say, 3 primary checkride failures in the 1990s or early 2000s, those aren't going to have a very large impact on your application. It's all about, as time goes on, as you learn from those experiences, as you show humility with each one of those failures, it certainly helps your application as you go forward.
Yeah, and I don't want to talk outside of school here, but I do want to encourage those low-time pilots there's so many people that are in a flight training program, whether it's Aviate or whether it's some other thing, and their end goal is United. And they're 20, 22, 23, 24, and they're doing their stuff, and they're going to like crank through a whole bunch of hours and all of a sudden have 1,500 hours like 18, 24 months later. And then that failure that you may have had might be real close in. Mm-hmm. And so you have to evaluate that. I think that to be encouraged that you can still succeed, what you need to do is be honest, have integrity, don't be an idiot. I'm not making Justin say it. I'm saying it to you, pilot, listening. Like, you've got to have integrity because it is so important. But you can succeed and you can be at the place you want to be as long as you're honest and you're straightforward and you learn something. There's a fear in people that I see all the time. You should see my emails. I'm sure you probably get like all the things that they're like, I don't know what United's thinking. I'm like, I don't either, but I think you should be honest.
That's exactly right. Yeah. The transparency and the openness is far more important to us than the actual number of failures that you may have had. And even if you did have a failure very recently, or you had an unsat, or there was an issue that you experienced recently, we will certainly still consider you and still look at your application and very likely move you forward too, so long as you show that humility, that integrity, and you can tell us what you learned from that mistake. And we are happy to still consider you in that issue.
Do you think if you are concerned about something like that, if you're a pilot, right, if it's me and I'm applying for you and I'm concerned about it, it's probably a good idea to put my application in, but then go meet you and your team and go find where you are?
That's exactly correct. Yeah, I would recommend anyone, regardless of whatever is in your background or in your history, just submit your application, right? We cannot know what is in your background or that you're even interested in United without submitting that application. And then to your point, if you do have concerns or there are issues, meet a member of my team. We're working really hard to make my team more accessible. So you can reach out to a member of my team on LinkedIn, either by email, or you could also, if you know a Career United pilot, meet one of our chief pilots and one of our CPOs and be able to speak with them about your experience. And that's a great way for you to kind of assuage some of those fears and ensure that we still have eyes on you, even with the experience that you had in your past.
Yeah. And so for the pilot that's going to go do this, don't go in cold. Be ready, because you never know when they're going to look at your resume, they're going to look at your application, and they're going to be like, all right, well, you want to party? Let's party. And they're going to bring you in and sit you down and put the screws to you and ask you questions and get an interview right there. So don't just go in cold. Don't be like, I'm going to go test the waters. I've seen that so many times.
Absolutely. I think coming with a very clear plan and figuring out who you're going to talk to, when you're going to talk to them is far more important. Going in cold can make it challenging for the person to be able to give you an accurate response, quite honestly. I think if you have a plan and we know that you're coming, we know that you have whatever is going on in your history, and you give us some time, we can certainly give you a better response and give you a better experience, I think, ultimately in the end.
Yeah, I think that is so important. And I love that you said you're trying to increase the accessibility of your team, because it used to not be like that. I mean, pre-COVID, it wasn't like that for anybody, for anybody to sit down and be like, oh, I'm going to go on a podcast about and tell everybody our super secret stuff. Like, you know what? This isn't Hogwarts, right? There's no magic behind it. It's all about professionalism and professional pilots and finding the right fit too. And that to me is so interesting. Let's chew on the culture, right? Because United is always, Scott, your CEO, is always in the news about culture and about the things, the fabric of United. Will you chew on that with me and talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. I think it's fair to say that the aviation industry in the United States has gone through many challenges throughout our 90 plus years, including United. And I think COVID and 9/11 and other really big events, the recession 2008, have really been eye-opening for us as a company, for us as employees, and for the culture as a whole. I truly believe that in this new era that we are in right now, where we are growing very quickly, where we are hiring many, many pilots over the next few years, we have to have a good value proposition for people to come here. And our value proposition, I believe right now, United, is our culture. Does not mean that everything that we do here is perfect. Does not mean that we are never going to make a mistake. But the atmosphere, the culture, the way that we look after our employees, our operation, and I think importantly now too, also our customers, we are being able to provide a much different experience for everyone than the United of 10, 15, 20 years ago, or any airline 10, 15, 20 years ago as well. So culture is very important, and it is really our way to attract great talent to this company.
So how long does an interview take, start to finish? How long does it take?
About an hour and a half, give or take.
Okay, so you are sitting down. You don't know me. I'm sitting down face to face with you. I'm a 6'4" white guy, and I'm a Navy guy, right? I'm a Navy helicopter pilot. So there's my silo. There's my bucket of who I am. How in the world do you evaluate whether I'm a good fit, whether I fit in the culture? Am I some crazy like bigot? Am I some person that's going to cry on command? Am I a person that is going to be a successful hire? Like there's a lot at stake there in an hour and a half. How do you manage that?
Great question. For us, what we look for is, are you genuine? Are you able to properly communicate with both individuals in the room, a pilot and a HR individual? And then finally, are you able to really express who you are, right? Yes, you may be a Navy helicopter guy. Show us that. I want to see that, right? I want to see that as your experience. I want to see what that means to you. And I want to see that really genuine personality come out while being able to communicate with two very different individuals in your interview. We are able, I think, very successfully to identify pilots who we believe would fit very well within our culture and continue the proud legacy of being a United Airlines pilot based upon that conversation.
I usually look at their socks. That's my socks.
We do have some pilots that have some cool socks too. So
I want to know, on the lighter side, has there been any conversation to like allowing beards and stuff? Like, I love it. Like, I see UPS doing it. I see other people doing it. Like, I need the legacies to do this. Like, when are we going to do beards?
That is a very interesting question that you asked that, because I just had a conversation with some of our leaders a couple weeks ago about this. And I'm not sure if it will happen soon, simply because we do not allow beards because of the fit of the air mask inside the aircraft. And I know that some thoughts and feelings around that. But for the time being, I think once there's a standardized air mask, on board all of our aircraft, or we have some similarities to that, that may not be coming down the pipeline as soon as some would hope.
I will give a pass on this, despite everybody in Europe who has beards and does that, but I'm not going to push the issue. But Mr. Kirby, if you're listening, man, we want beards. We want beards. Everybody I interview, I try to ask them about beards, because I feel like if I keep pushing it enough, like once I'm going to get like Pete Buttigieg to get in there and be in like Secretary of Transportation.
At some point, the switch will flip. I guarantee it.
That's right. We're close. And I'm just, if I can just push this, if I can, it's my life goal.
But you don't have a beard yourself. Are you looking to grow a beard?
I grow the worst beard. Oh, I look just like I have leprosy, and it's so sad.
That's pretty good.
Oh my gosh. But it's so cool. I love it. I'm a big fan. All right. So we haven't talked about the Hogan yet, and I want to dive into that, right? Like, first off, I want to know what it is. And then I want to know why we're doing this.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Yeah. So the next step of our hiring process, if you're successful at the resume review and you meet all of our qualifications and you're competitive, you're invited to complete the Hogan. And the Hogan, I think there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of misinformation about the Hogan as well. The Hogan is simply, for my team and the board of review, which we can talk about later, it's a data point. It's an ability for us to see how you would fit within the culture of being a United Airlines pilot. So it's many questions, the agree and disagree questions that we all know and love. It is it's a very practical, I think, assessment, and we've been using it for a very long time. And we find it to be very, very useful for us. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it is a data point that we combine with the interview scores, the technical scores, and we package it all together with the Hogan to present to our board of review. And they make the ultimate decision whether a candidate moves forward or not. So very useful information, but it's simply just a data point for us.
So it's not a discriminator to not get an interview?
If a candidate completes their Hogan, they will also be invited to an interview.
Hot dog. That's good. That right there is a sweet little piece of information. I know in other organizations, there is a discriminating piece, which makes my phone blow up.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting too, because I feel like some individuals are very nervous about the Hogan. They stress about it a lot. They're afraid they're going to do very poorly. And like I said, you can do poorly on the Hogan and you can still become a pilot at United. You could do very well in the Hogan and not become a pilot at United. It is simply one of 3 data points we have that influences our hiring decision at the end of the day.
That's so interesting. I love that. Like, that's really interesting. So I take the Hogan. Mm-hmm. I'm invited for an interview. And do I have to buy my own hotel, or you guys put them up?
We provide you airline tickets. We do not provide hotel rooms.
Got it. So yeah, I got to get my hotel. No big deal. Got to look sharp in a suit. Like, is it like business casual, like shorts and flip flops for the interview? Is it a suit? What is the right way to dress?
Yeah, we look for business professional here. So we look for blazers on both genders, obviously slacks or a dress for females. and a suit and tie for males. Again, not fully encompassing, but that's what our preference is.
Look like a pro. You want a job that's going to pay you money. You want to be a millionaire? Dress like a millionaire. Do it. In this interview, you guys can't see me, but I am wearing my In-N-Out Hawaiian shirt, and I'm certainly not dressed in a suit and tie. So that was for my interview and for when I get buried. So those are the two reasons I wear a suit now.
I would probably still interview you in that though today. So
let's go. It'd be awesome. Well, I think, I don't want to give anybody any ideas, but
it'd be a conversation piece. I don't know how successful you would be, but
I'll tell you what. So I had an experience at RTAG, the Rotary to Air Group. For those of you that don't know, it's a big hiring convention. All the airlines show up. United was a huge sponsor. And one of my friends who is in the Army, he was staying at our hotel, and it was the last day and everybody was leaving. Everybody's getting coffee and then going to the valet and getting your car and then going to the airport and headed home. And he's waiting on the valet and he's chit-chatting with the guy next to him. They're just having a conversation. The guy says, "Hey, what are you in for?" He says, "Oh, well, there's this thing called RTAG, really fun convention for people that are pilots to try to get hired." And he told him all about it. And he said, "Cool. What company did you want to fly for?" And he said, "Man, United." And he said, "Oh, really? That's so cool. Why?" He went on telling about all the cool things about the United. And it was a chief pilot standing there asking him these questions. And he gave him his card and he said, "I'm such and such. I'm a chief pilot. I want you to call me on Monday morning and I'd like to find out more." And that guy's flying for United right now. And I love that. The opportunity, and the flexibility of people within the organization to help promote and find the people that fit in that culture.
Absolutely. And I truly believe that some of our best sourcers or best resources to find great pilots at United are our pilots themselves, as well as our pilot leadership. They have the flexibility and the ability to nominate any pilot that they know to have a meet the chief interview with the chief, who then recommend them to my team as well. They have the ability to encourage them to come to any of our conferences. And we truly believe that our best pilots come from people who already know people at United Airlines as well.
Yeah, I highly encourage, wherever your focus is, you always need to be the best version of yourself, because you never know, especially if you're anywhere close to an airport, be the best version of yourself.
I frequently get emails from our pilots who say, "Hey, I just had a great individual jump seat with me. Take a look at his application, see what you think." And we do. We will look at their application in that situation.
I love it. I think you should. I think you got 2 hours in a closed door session with this person. It's a great opportunity to kind of learn about them. That's awesome.
Yeah. Talk about seeing their truly authentic self too. Trying to get on your commute back home in the jump seat in the flight deck.
Yeah, especially if you don't fly for the company, right? You have for the pilot that's listening, if you've never jump seated, man, it can be a great experience, or it can be the most stressful, worse than your interview, stressful, trying to get past the gate agent who's the final boss on some video game. You have to convince that person that you should get on. And if you don't fly for that company, there's just so many ways to fall through the cracks. And so once you do, and you're in there, you should be the best human you've ever been, because those pilots, you represent your company when you are doing that jump seating, and you're probably going to end up representing United if that's your focus. That's 1,000% my advice.
Absolutely.
Hey, before I let you go, I need to mention one thing, because a lot of people are asking me, can you do anything? Can you help me with this? And the answer is yes. At Spitfire Elite, we will make more millionaires this year than Major League Baseball will make in the next 5 years. Our company actually does this. It's called Spitfire Elite Interview Consulting. And you can find us over at SpitfireElite.com. Our clients, they call us the easy button for interview prep, because everything you need to crush your interview is there in one spot. Whether it's application review or interview prep, all of it is covered. We've helped thousands of clients who are now flying at their dream jobs because our coaches gave them the one-on-one feedback that they needed to succeed on the biggest day of their life. The best part of Spitfire is our community. All Spitfire clients will get access to our private chats where they can work with each other and they can work with our coaches and get the latest information on all the airlines. If you'd like to make sure that you are 100% ready to go on your big day, there is only one choice. Everything you need is in one place, and I think it's pretty affordable. You'll have to take a look for yourself. Just go over to SpitfireElite.com and check us out. Use the coupon code PODCAST and it'll save you 10%. And by the way, I will see you on the next episode. The statements made on this show are my own opinions and do not reflect, nor are they under any direction from my employer.